If you guys are engine swapping your Foxbody Mustang and you're planning on keeping the air conditioning in it, this video is for you. You don't want to miss this. We're going to go over the whole system and what it takes to integrate modern stuff versus old stuff in your Fox. It's going to be awesome. Stay tuned right now on House of Doula. All right, in this video, we're going to go over AC systems in general. Now, first off, I am not a trained HVAC guy, but I will say this was a huge learning curve for me, and this video has been in the making now for a few months because I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought it was going to be simple, and I started ordering parts for it, and as I started getting into it, I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. In fact, I recorded probably almost an episode or pretty much hours of footage I was going to go ahead and edit for you guys, and once I figured out at the end of it that this was just way off, and I'm clearly need to read up more and do some more learning, then I scrapped that video and I decided to start all over. So this is where we're at. I'm gonna go over the whole phase, everything that I went through to learn the AC system and what I am planning on doing to get this working. Now, the engine's not running, okay? We know that the engine swap isn't complete, so it's not like we could test this either. So what I'm going to show you here at the very end of the day may or may not work. I'm not gonna lie. And kind of show you what we got going on here, get you kind of an idea of why, why this is more difficult. And then we'll go over all the parts I've ordered, and I have a plan in place in my head right now to build it, but I wanted to wait to do it on camera for you guys. So we're gonna build it together and hopefully complete the AC system in the car and get everything ready for, well, summertime in Texas, okay? I need AC, it's hot. All right, guys, again, this is Project EgoBruise. This is a 1979 Mustang Coupe. It had a 4-banger in it before, and we're keeping the 4-banger in it, keeping the roots of the car to the original 2.3 liter. It is now receiving a 2.3 liter from a 2015 Mustang. Of course, it's a 2.3 liter EcoBoost. It is mated to a T5 transmission. In the mid plate there is a Essinger adapter plate, and it's being held up with a Stifler's cross member. So I do think this is going to pertain to everybody, not just this car, this build. If you're a Coyote swap guy or a Godzilla swap, a lot of the struggles and everything that I went through is going to be exactly the same because you're dealing with modern air compressors that are, in a different area, or modern AC compressors that are in a different location on the engine bay than it would be, of course, with your standard 302 engine being up here. So man, that's just one difference. And secondly, with this car, I'm also converting from R12 to R134A. I wanted to get rid of all the AC components and start over and get all new components, from a 93 up. So this has been modernized with basically 86 and 93 components for the things that I knew could bolt onto the car and were an easy swap. Now, everything in this car I've touched has already been somewhat of a struggle because everything on a 1979 was so unique and different than later Foxbodies. Actually, from 82 and up, they've been completely different. So when I went about, doing this engine swap and getting rid of the old stuff, my thought process was, we'll just start putting in modern AC stuff in it from a 93, and then I'll just make it all work with 86 to 93 Foxbody stuff. And that will just work. The only thing I was thinking about I would really have to swap or integrate would be the connections to the compressor down here. Then after that, it was just going to keep it all, all Mustang. Well, I already had to start making custom lines because, like I said, the compressor's down here, not over there. So I knew that that was going to be part of the case. We'll talk about that when I go over to the bench here on some of the parts that I ordered. But the second challenge I had, or actually the biggest challenge I've had up to that point, was the evaporator. So if you look at 1979 with the R12 system, it had a big copper expansion valve sticking out the firewall, looking really ugly. Now, again, this is an R12 expansion valve. It was big, it was bulky, it had 3 lines going to it. One of them was an oil drain line. So I wanted to immediately take out the evaporator and buy one. So I bought a 93 evaporator, took the HVAC box out, and actually was going to make a whole entire video just on upgrading and swapping the evaporator from a 79 to a modern, 86, modern-ish, 86 and 93 style evaporator with, your standard lines like this. You've got your threaded line up top here, and you've got your quick lock down here, and I wanted to integrate that. Now, this orifice tube design replaces your expansion valve block that was here. So that was my idea. I was like, listen, I'll just put modern stuff in it and be done with it. But man, like I said, everything fought me in this car. And right off the bat, as soon as I took the HVAC box out, started tearing into it, started tearing it apart, pulled out the old R12 evaporator, slid in the new one, and realized that it was a good solid 2 or 3 inches smaller, which meant there was a massive gap around the HVAC where air was going to flow around. So I was going to make a whole video just on swapping the evaporator, but listen, it's not worthy. Just know that what I did was I went ahead and just made a block. Okay, I made a plastic spacer block that filled that void and filled that gap to make up that difference, and basically made it physically the same size as the R12 evaporator, but it was using a modern evaporator. I sealed it up. It's nice, it's ready to go, and that was a cheap and easy way for me to put in a modern style evaporator or an upgraded evaporator without replacing the entire HVAC box. Because physically from the outside, the HVAC box dimensionally is the same as my 86 over here, okay, which has this same style evaporator, but you just can't tell. Internally, there's a difference, there's a size difference, so that didn't work, and we made it work by doing that with the block and fill in the void. So that was the first issue that we resolved. The second issue would be the condenser. Now again, on that same line of thinking, I replaced the condenser with a 86 and 93 style condenser because the dryer on a 1979 was actually right here, and it was in a way the intercooler. So to get rid of the dryer and go to a later model Foxbody AC system, I just was going to put a condenser here and the accumulator here, and call it done. So this now has a spring lock style, 86 93 condenser on the front end. And again, now that we've got a component here that is standard Foxbody, and a component here that is standard Foxbody, I can then purchase this line here. Now this is the line, of course, between your condenser and going into your evaporator. This is an orifice tube line. Okay, we're going to talk into a little bit more detail about the AC systems, but your orifice tube is here, and it's critical to get this line here for your AC system to go from a high pressure to a low pressure. Okay, that orifice tube is crucial for actually making cold air. So that is in place. So the dryer up front here, I couldn't use it because it was in the way of my intercooler, and I didn't want it up here. I wanted to relocate it and again match the system that you would have on an 82 to 86 system. So what I did was, put a later model condenser on it to eliminate the dryer that was basically coming right off of the condenser, and then I was going to put a standard, accumulator that would go back here on your Foxbody. Of course, it would snake in, it screws right into this thread here. It would sit here, and then this line just snakes back over to your compressor over here. In this case, I was just going to, alter the hose and then go into your suction line there and just kind of complete the circuit and be done with it. Well, I couldn't use the accumulator here because I decided to use that location for my fuse box. It's in a perfect spot, and with this location, everything runs to where it needs to run in the engine bay without lengthening or shortening any of the wires. So that's pretty cool. Well, I still knew I needed to complete the circuit here. And again, I didn't realize at the time that there is 2 different types of AC systems on Foxbody Mustangs. 79 to 82 is going to have what they call an expansion valve, or a capillary system. It has an expansion valve on the firewall that I showed you earlier, and it has a dryer. Okay, a dryer is different than an accumulator. That's one system, and then from 82 all the way up to 93, and most, I guess, modern systems nowadays kind of have a mix of both, uses an orifice tube system, okay? So you have your orifice tube line here, and you have the accumulator back there. There's a big difference between the two. They both function and give you cold air. They do the same thing. The biggest difference is one is high pressure, one is low pressure. And this is where it started getting weird, because what I wanted to do was buy a universal kit, because guess what? When you buy a universal kit, or if you buy an AC system for almost every classic vehicle or hot rod or whatever the case is, it's almost always an expansion valve system with a dryer, okay? You've seen them on all the cars, guys. You go out to your local car show and your classic air or vintage air, and you've got the canister here with a little wire coming off the wire, and it's wrapping around one of the tubes here, and then you've got your standard dryer that's over here up by your condenser, and then your AC system works with your Sony compressor and blah blah blah. Well, not knowing that, what I did, I went out and bought a universal kit. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'll complete the circuit and I'll buy a universal kit. So Cold Hose has been a go-to website, not sponsored by them by any means, but they have been great. I have been on the website now, don't even want to know how many times, but universal kit from them comes with hoses. It comes with 3 different standard size of AC hoses. You've got your number 6s, your number 10s, and a number 8, real similar to AN size fittings. Came with, again, a dryer, not knowing that this was a dryer. And it came with a pressure switch to cycle your AC on and off. And it came with various lines, adapters for the 3 different types of hose sizes, and it came with your low and high pressure fitting here, okay? This is when I started fitting. So what I did, of course, I got my system in, I started looking over the dryer, and I realized that these are, you know, number 6 lines. Well, I go over here, and again, if you look at a standard Foxbody accumulator, this is a lot bigger than number 6. So if you come over here and you're like, well, this isn't gonna work, you know, this is a number 6 line, clearly, that's a lot bigger than number 6, so that's not going to work. So that kind of started raising my eyebrows and made me start to realize that I probably had something off here. The difference in hose sizes is an indication of low and high pressure. The bigger the hose is going to be lower pressure. The smaller the hose is higher pressure. So again, with the system being off, it's like, okay, we got to rethink this, go back to the drawing board. All right, come over to my computer real quick. We're gonna make just really quick. If you wanna know more about this, you really wanna learn about AC systems, I highly recommend going to YouTube and looking at Professor Pentane here. He has a 4-session class, if you will, explaining all this stuff. And it didn't really click until I watched these videos. So thank you to this guy, he's helped me out big time. But this right here is a very easy way to see an orifice tube system. Right here, you got your compressor. You got high compressor vapor coming out of here, which is condensed. This is the whole purpose of, they call this a condenser. So it comes out of here, goes into your condenser. It compresses the vapor into a high pressure liquid, goes to the orifice tube. The orifice tube is essentially a controlled blockage. Comes out of your orifice tube into a low pressure now, into your evaporator or below. So this is chilled. So your evaporator is now super chilled. And then it returns back into your accumulator. And your accumulator now is a suction back into here. So this is important because your accumulator is different than the dryer. So let's look at this compared to your other system here, the capillary system here. So same principle, you got your high pressure coming out here into your condenser on the front of the vehicle. The fan is blowing air through the condenser. It changes from a high pressure vapor to a high pressure liquid. It stays high pressure through the dryer. The dryer has beads in it that will take moisture out of the system, and it stays high pressure liquid. It's meant to push high pressure liquid through the expansion valve. Your expansion valve is now controlled based on the temperature of your low pressure valve here, and it allows for fluid to be controlled in and out of it based on the temperature of the pipe over here. So this fluid now is released into your evaporator as a low pressure vapor and makes cold air in your AC system. Okay, so again, now you can really see here, this is a setup on a earlier Foxbody Mustang, and you can see why this is now attached right to the side of the compressor. I'm sorry, it's inside of the condenser. Because you have high pressure liquid going through it. Now it's important to get this correct because this is not taking in liquid. In fact, you can't compress liquid. You don't want to be sucking in liquid into your compressor. So you want to make sure that not only do you have the correct component here with an orifice tube system, but you also have this orientated correctly. Okay, now that you have a basic understanding on AC systems, again, if you want to know more, just go back and watch it. We can now actually start searching for the correct parts to run an accumulator system, since I chose to keep the orifice tube in there. So now that I'm looking for an accumulator, well, guess what? They don't make universal accumulators, okay? It's not common. They have universal dryers everywhere. No universal accumulators. So I got on the hunt and started searching for an accumulator that would work for my car. And this is where things started getting weird. This is where you start getting weird sizes and weird fittings and weird everything when it comes to all this AC stuff. Now, it's important to understand the different types of fittings also. We don't need to get too detailed, but majority of this, everything you see here are going to be O-ring style fittings. Of course, you've got a unique flare here. Okay, and this flare is going to house an O-ring on it. So you put an O-ring around here. Again, we have a bag of O-rings for this. And then this will slide in. Let's use a number 10, for example. This one actually has an O-ring on it. See, so it's got an O-ring, has a flare on it, slides into the fitting like so, locks into place, and the threads, you know, of course, tighten it all up. So not only did I have to find an accumulator, but I also had to find one with the correct orientation of in and outs. And in this case, you still need to have a way to switch your compressor on and off. These switches right here are unique based on accumulator versus dryer because it's a high versus low system. So now this is a low system, your switch is what cycles the compressor on and off. These are going to vary significantly between a dryer and accumulator. Okay, a dryer will click off at 312 psi. It'll click off again at 0 psi. Okay, so it's on all the time in between those. An accumulator, however, clicks on at 44 psi, then clicks off at 24 psi. Why is that important? We have to wire this thing and make sure that it works like the Foxbody wiring is set up to work. So you can see on my pressure switch back here, that's a low pressure switch, that's the accumulator, okay? So not only do we have to think about the electronics, now we have to worry about the routing, we have to worry about the type of fittings we have here, and that's just another piece of the puzzle. So what I've got here, let's just kind of go over this. This is what I came up with. This is an accumulator off a 97 Ford probe. I liked it because you had one coming out on one side, one coming on the other side. They're angled slightly, and then you've got this fitting here. The way I'm going to run this in the car, I want to try to possibly put it right here. Okay, there's a lot of room in the fender well right here, so it's going to go here. But also, this is just a normal, this is also another Ford dryer. So I was able to get the switch from a 97 probe here as well. And you can see it's got the same plug as my 86 back there, which is kind of cool. So we should be able to make this work based on the correct switch and the correct components here and the correct fittings. Now, this universal kit did not come with these here. These 4 pieces are, again, yet another problem I ran into. So problem number, what are we at, 3? Problem number 4. Let's just say 4, I don't really know, was finding adapters for this compressor. Now I know what you're thinking, Coyote kit, Mike, just go get your Coyote kit. No, well, Coyotes don't have the same fittings. In fact, this upper kit here was a Coyote adapter kit. It was not cheap either. So this, one side of it works for the low pressure. The low pressure side right here worked, the high pressure side did not. In fact, I've got the original fittings over here, and this is your high pressure side fitting there. Okay, so clearly they're different. So I became now on the search to look for the correct fitting for this, and what I came across was actually a Godzilla swap set. These two are for Godzilla swap. The low side suction fitting is the same on these two for the Coyote and Godzilla, and this one actually matches my EcoBoost. So that was a manhunt that I had to find, so this is correct. We'll use this kit. We don't necessarily need this anymore. Again, that was a pretty expensive piece of equipment, our adapters. So maybe, I don't know, shoot, 60 bucks, something like that. The point is, I don't mean to bore you to death on how AC stuff works, but I think personally it's important. If you don't understand this, you're gonna do what I did and just spend a ton of money just buying crap until you get it working versus having a plan, okay? Once you understand how AC systems work, and once you understand that you need an accumulator, especially if you're planning on moving, if you're just removing your AC components and you want to put it behind the fender well and hide it, I mean, you kind of need to know this kind of stuff, man. So I've wasted lots of money here. I can't use a dryer. In fact, I even opened it up, and these are pressurized. Actually, they're under vacuum. And to be perfectly honest, none of this should be open. Okay, all your AC components should always be sealed. You do not want moisture getting into them. I understand everything is open here, okay? Okay, my condenser's been open. The evaporator's been open. Everything's been open for months. Even the compressor's been open. I get that, guys. We're gonna pull vacuum on this car a few times and try to get all the moisture out. We don't have a lot of humidity here. I'm not really worried about those temp swings and changes. So it is what it is. It's hard to build a system and lay it all out without having everything open because we have to fit lines and everything. All right, so now you're informed with all this information. So now I formulated a plan. Let's talk about the plan. Let's actually get to work here. I drew this out. There's no point in showing you this whole drawing here, but the point of doing this is I doodled it out and tried to lay out the lines in my head where I wanted it so that I could figure out the fittings. Because here's our challenges. What is this, problem number 5? I don't really know. So the first thing off the bat, we had to find the fittings to get off the compressor. Okay, I found those. That's the Godzilla kit. That's pretty cool. Now we have high and low pressure fittings. The high pressure fitting is going to come off the compressor as a number 8, which is convenient because this so happens to be, as it should be, a number 8 spring lock fitting. But I don't have a adapter for that, so what did I do? Well, I bought an adapter for that. So again, just kind of piecing things together. I gotta find it. There we go. Number 8, and this is a 45-degree number 8. So we have a spring lock that'll go in like this, and then we'll create a number 8 hose from there into the fitting here. This guy here, I'll say that's a number 8 thread. So hang on, I'll lay this on here real quick. Okay, and we'll get a number 8 fitting that matches that size. I labeled everything, just by the way. Oh, here we go. I decided to put the service ports off the compressor itself. So this is going to be our number 8 service port. Okay, then I've mocked up our fitting here with the low side. This is number 10, low side pressure. And I think we're going to put it on the compressor like that. So, and then on top of all this craziness is I've read that certain companies, there we go, certain companies will make their own sizes, proprietary. So Vintage Air, for instance, has their own proprietary fittings and sizes, which complicates it. So now we've got a low pressure and our high pressure ports on the compressor. Again, we'll make a connection here to there, and then the fun comes. So now we have to complete the accumulator. So the accumulator, I think, and by the way, this was not marked suction. It matters which side you put this on. In fact, there is a tube. You can look this up. I'm not going to go into detail on this, but there's a tube inside of here that snakes down, has a little tiny pinhole in it that allows oil in it. It's a vapor only tube. So it sucks vapor up from the top, it dips down to pick up some oil, and it comes back to your compressor. And the whole point of that is so it doesn't suck in liquid, and you're only sucking in gases. This wasn't labeled. I had to figure it out. I used a flashlight and a pen, and the one that has a tube coming up to it, like inside of here is tube. This is just open to the cavity of the whole air. This is the one that needs to go back to the compressor because this is the one that's going to be vapor only and picking up oil down the bottom. So there's a whole video on that on YouTube. You can find it. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to put this like here, which means we got to build a bracket. So I can build a bracket here. We'll get that set up. And then I want to make a hard line. So hard lines. Why do I want a hard line? So I guess cue problem number 6. I guess we're on number 6 problem. I don't know. So again, I'm hiding my AC system. I could put a hole in the firewall here, and I could run a rubber hose, one of these lines that we can make into a fitting that goes into our accumulator, or our evaporator. All these terms, Jesus. Fitting goes into our evaporator, but I really didn't want. I want that. When you look at the engine bay and you open up the engine bay, I really just want to see fancy, nice lines. I don't want to see any weird rubber hoses going through the firewall. It just looks kind of janky, in my opinion. Nothing's wrong with that, but in this car, what I decided to do was put a hard line in it. Problem is, you can't make your own hard lines from home, not O-ring flared. Now, you can convert your fittings. This whole AC system is O-ring style fittings, okay? You can convert it to AN. You can convert it to compression. Like, there's all kinds of fittings you can make happen. I just wanted to keep it all O-ring so it's more OEM style. Well, they don't make that, but what Vintage Air does make is these standard length, or these not standard, but these variable length aluminum lines. I got 2 of them because I was going to screw one up on purpose. I pretty much knew I was going to screw it up, but this is what we got here. So I bought some lines here, and yes, I had to buy a number 10 tube bender. So now I've got this, which is 5/8, by the way, 5/8 tube. What am I going to do with that after this? I don't know. I'll loan it out to make more AC lines, I guess. But we've got a bin made, and what we're going to do is use this kind of as a mock-up. We'll put a hole through a firewall, and then this will go right off the side of the fender. I say the fender, not the firewall. So this will kind of come out towards the fender in a little bit neater fashion than this. And then this will make a bend underneath here, and then it'll convert from a hard line to a soft line into the accumulator, and the accumulator line back to the compressor is going to go right underneath it it's gonna just go right underneath the car and straight into here. So it'll just pop out right here next to the sway bar and be done. Boom, done. So that will complete the circuit, and then we'll do wiring in the next video as like a part 2. This is all clear as mud, right? I mean, it is. This is perfect. So let's start building this thing. I need to build a bracket. One thing we gotta do over here, we need to make a bracket to hold the accumulator. Man, we got the mount created. Looks okay. It's sturdy. I just spot welded it on and created out of thick steel, so it'll be good. Good to go. I test fit the fender on here and it's not poking. Worst case scenario, I have to get, you know, a 90-degree Schrader valve and just bend it down, you know, out of the way. Or I could even shorten this plug. I'm not gonna buy the plug for it. I'll probably use just your standard spade connections. Female spade connection to go in there to get the electrical part out of it, and then I'll drill the hole here and we are ready to start bending lines. So I've tested this one. I made the 90-degree bend way too early. I need to go at least 2 inches in before this. So we're gonna bend some line here, test fit it, put a grommet on it, test fit it, put a grommet on it, test fit, whatever, until we get the line just right. All right, I think I've got a bent hard line here about the way I want it. It's got all kinds of crazy bends, but let's check this out here. All right, so that's not bad. I've got this in a spot where I can, it's dead center into the hole, and it's just tucking up here. Now we're going to convert this to a soft line, and this will need to go into this port over here, and this is going to go down to the compressor itself. But man, that line looks pretty good. We'll put a clamp on it to hold it nice and tight up in there. Hopefully this area right here will not get into the way of the wheel. I don't think it will. I think it's quite a bit up there. It's pretty high. I mean, you really have to be, if my wheel's hitting this, then I'm like way too low. But look how centered that is. Yep, I'm pretty proud of that. Nice bends there. I did the best I could the first time I've used a tube bender, but anyways, it's gonna look pretty good. I've got a grommet we're gonna try to put in place there. I wish it made tighter bends, but unfortunately, you know, that tube bender with the radius it has, I mean, obviously that's as wide as I can go, so, or as narrow as I can go. So definitely got a, you know, a loop around, if you will, but I like it. It does its job. I kind of wish it was more, but whatever. It's fine. You want nice bends. It's a bigger line, so you're not gonna be able to get that kind of radius you have in these little ones anyways. So now we got to make the soft lines, and then we'll get the connections made. Okay, with the soft lines, we're gonna start with the one coming out of the evaporator, and we're gonna start here. So I've got quite a few of these adapters, or these crimp-on O-ring ends. And by the way, I don't think I've even mentioned that, but these are crimp-on. We'll have to borrow a tool to crimp these on, or I can take them to any shop and get them crimped on. But I got a number of different sizes we could try here. We can first try and play with a straight end. We'll get a hose between here if we want to. See how a straight end works, or, so that's gonna be a straight end. See, that's gonna be, That's gonna be a hell of a bend. Let's see, let's try this. Let's put a 45 on it. I think a 45 is gonna be a little better. There we go. Yeah, that's perfect. So now with a 45 in, what I can do is kind of kick it like this, and we'll just need to put a soft hose between here and there. Let me show you how we're gonna make these soft hoses. All right, so I got a roll here. I say a roll, I've got, I don't know, this is probably 4 feet of soft hose, and I'm hoping it's enough, but what we're gonna do, we'll just need to put one end, and this hose is kind of big and cumbersome, but we're gonna push one end all the way until it stops, which is right there. Then we're gonna snake it around, and you wanna mark it all the way up to the lip of the collar, the end of the collar here. Okay. So this is gonna be right there. Okay, we'll go cut it. I've got a hose cutter. This is a cheapo one, and it does work. It's a Klein Tools. This thing just pinches. It's got a nice sharp blade on it, but my God, it likes to pinch my fingers. So we're just gonna pinch my fingers. But it does make a nice straight cut. You want a straight cut on this, of course, just like you would on any hose. Boop. Hey, it didn't pinch me. Hey. Okay, got our hose. We'll slide this into there like this. Bend this around like that. It's gonna be a tight fit. Push it all the way up, and then there we have it. So now, of course, this is gonna push out because I need to put a hose clamp there. So what I probably need to do now is go find a hose clamp. We could put it up against here to keep this from bowing out like it is. Cool. Ow, 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 hot. There we go. Okay, now remember, we still gotta put O-rings on all these connections too. There we go. Nice. That's perfect. Okay, now we're gonna take the high pressure line coming out of the compressor. This is a number 8 line. I'm literally just kind of lining it up. I got plenty of this, so I don't really care if I screw it up. I got more of it. That could be a little longer. I don't like the way it's draping up. And if I push it all the way up this way and all the way up this way, yeah, I kind of missed that one. Okay, we're gonna make another one. Okay. That's better. There we go. And the only thing left to complete the circuit here is the return line. Okay, man, I'm about to show you the finished product, guys. I'm not gonna button everything up right now because, well, there's just no point. I'm not gonna put anything in it, I'm not gonna put vacuum on it. We still have to get the crimps made. I do want to emphasize that. This video was all about the AC system routing, and in my mind, this is done. I'm doing some last minute buffing here. I'm actually getting the shine with Scotch-Brite here off of the tube here. This is a looks thing. I want it to look nice in the compartment. So what I want to do here is just take off the Sharpie and some of the scratches. This gives it a nice dull look, which I love. Okay, man, hey, everything is routed. Everything is done. I went ahead and just kind of hit this with a Scotch-Brite pad. That takes some of the dullness off and the Sharpie off, which takes some of the shininess off, makes it a little bit duller, and kind of takes the Sharpie off. But here, check this out. We got the lines ran. Let's start here. Let's start with the circuit, okay? Out of the compressor. Okay, we got the high pressure line going through here, going to our spring lock adapter that goes into the condenser. Okay, the fan blows air through the condenser. It changes state here. Condenses to a liquid. Here's our liquid line coming down here to the stock orifice tube, into, or out of the orifice tube. Okay, now it is low pressure going into the evaporator here inside the car, coming out of the evaporator car as a suction line, number 10, going through our grommet here. Okay, I need to probably put a bigger grommet there, but going through the grommet there, snaking along the fender well, and then back down here and into the suction line of our accumulator, okay? Coming out the accumulator, we have it snaking around here. I'm gonna put a clamp that'll kind of hold it up this way away from the tire. It'll be fine. I'm almost certain it'll be fine, but if not, we'll deal with that as time comes, and then it goes back underneath the car into there, completing the system. Now, the only thing left to do for me is to crimp the lines. I'm not gonna show you that here. It's not a big deal. All you have to do is just mark the positions with a white, grease pen or something like that, so that you have orientation of all the hoses. Now that everything's in place, we mark it, we'll remove everything, take it to the shop, they'll crimp it, not a big deal, and then we'll assemble everything with O-rings. Right now, there's no O-rings on any of the connectors, so it's not, this is again just mock-up, but this is the final product. I like it. Again, I'm gonna push this back through here like that, and it will be fine. Okay, and there's plenty of room here for the fender. I've already tested that. I promise it's fine. It looks like there's not, but there is. I may have to cut the connector down just so I don't have to worry about, the wires poking to the fender. But man, what do you think, huh? Looking pretty good? EgoBruise is starting to look completed-ish. It looks amazing, and I'm awfully proud of how this thing is turning out. So listen, I know this video is getting super long. Let's end it. All right, man, I know that's a long video. I really do appreciate you guys sticking this long into the video. Hopefully it was somewhat informative. Hopefully you're somewhat now a little bit more educated on it. I don't even know if I am. And hopefully this thing even works when we're all said and done. It'll be quite a while until we get this engine fired up to where we can see if we have cold air. But the only thing we can do right now is just prepare and do the best we can to get everything correct now while it's in mock-up. So that being said, hey, listen, thank you for watching. This is a long video. I got a little surprise for you. If you made it this long to the video, I'm gonna give you a Stifler shirt. I've got an extra large Stifler shirt here, okay? Got one extra large, got Stiflers on the back. The first person that can tell me on my blue car back here, my turbo car, the motor that's in it now, what year of donor car did I pull that motor out of? If you're a fan of the channel and you know the car, and you know the cars out here, you should know this pretty quickly. The first person that gets that, let me know what year Mustang and donor car that I pulled that motor out of, the turbo motor that's on back there, and then put it in the comments, and also put in your email address into the comments. The first person that does that, I'll reach out, you'll hear from me, and then I will send you this t-shirt. But hey, guys, follow me on Instagram. Follow me on howtodoit.com. Instagram has everything on it. It's got my YouTube channel. It's got the Facebook group page, and it has my Instagram feed, and it also has got some knowledge-based stuff in there. And I'm putting more and more stuff out here from EcoBoost stuff out there as time allows. Do that. If you like this content, support me and subscribe. I would appreciate that. And we'll see you guys next time. Hey, keep wrenching on your Foxes, man. And stay tuned, because we have a lot of electrical work to do. We have a lot to do. More videos to come. Stay tuned.